Hello and welcome to ProSpeak. Yes, this is ProSpeak and I'm Jeffrey X. Lane. And ProSpeak, what's it all about? It is about professional speakers, wannabe speakers, facilitators, trainers, and coaches, hangout hosts. So this is at ProSpeak where you can learn about how to do better in your career, how to market, how to do lighting, but today, even more important, or at least I think it's important, is how to self-publish your book. I mean, is there a book in you? Is there an idea? Is there a story you want to tell? Well, I'm very fortunate, you're very fortunate, to have two people who I consider to be experts, and not just ordinary experts. I mean, is there ordinary experts? No, these are super experts. This is Jesse Finkelstein and Trina White, who run Page 2 Strategies. These are brilliant, far-reaching, far-thinking, intelligent, smart, and great people too. So that's enough of a promo, isn't it, really? And you can, if you can tell that I am fans of these two people, you're right, because they're good. I like good people, and you should get to know them. Well, actually, this program is all about them, really. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to say hi, tell a little bit about themselves, and why they like doing what they do. So to avoid any confusion, we'll go with Jesse first, and then we'll go to Trina, only because that's alphabetically kind of the way it is.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. We are delighted to be here. We are lifelong book lovers and have each of us worked our entire careers in book publishing. And really, we can't think of anything better to do than to talk about publishing. So we really appreciate the opportunity. I have worked in publishing from ever since I was out of university. I just loved the idea of helping people to bring their ideas to life in books. And with every year that goes by, I get more and more excited about it, particularly now that the advent of new technologies make these tools really accessible to us. And so this is one of the reasons that Trina and I wanted to start a publishing agency that would allow us to take advantage of these tools. So I might let Trina pick it up from there.
And thank you to Jeffrey for having us on the show today. So I am Trina White. I'm the co-founder of Page 2 with Jesse Finkelstein. And I too am a lifelong book lover, naturally, and have spent my career in publishing. Really, we launched Page 2 a couple of years ago with the idea that we wanted to help people who are experts in their fields and thought leaders and entrepreneurs and coaches and speakers to package their expertise and disseminate it to as wide as possible of an audience. And I can't imagine having more fun doing anything else. It's always a privilege to work with people who really are passionate about their own work and really have true expertise. So we're delighted to be here and looking forward to chatting more about self-publishing.
Yes. Well, I have a few questions. And I sort of was trying to think about if I'm just starting, because I've already published 2 books. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, what questions would I ask? It's kind of, where do you start? I mean, on one level, the whole process of writing is a challenge, but I think, at least for me, the stopper was, how do I get it in print? How do I get it out there? And then I had all sorts of questions about, well, there's all this new technology about ebooks and digital books and interactive books. Oh, Where do I go? Where do I start? So, where does somebody start?
Well, I think that's a really great question, Jeffrey, and it's true. There are all of these new tools and new ways of getting books out there, and it can be a really daunting landscape, which is one of the main reasons we started Page 2, to help people navigate that landscape and make the best possible decisions. Where you start, I think, is really about thinking through what your goals are for the book. You know, identifying what you hope to achieve with it and who your target audience is defines your whole approach from there. So whether that audience will prefer to receive information through an ebook or through a print book, how you're going to sell those books, how you're going to market them, it's really critical to think that through from the beginning. Jesse, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I would love to
Where
add
to begin?
I completely agree, and I would love to add to what you're saying, to say that one of the reasons we love working with entrepreneurs, with coaches, with business leaders, is because they really understand that goal analysis. Mm-hmm. So they often come to us feeling overwhelmed because a book feels like something aside from everything else that they do, a thing apart. And then when we start talking to them like business people, saying, okay, so what's your goal? Is it return on investment? Is it brand extension? Is it to get on the speaker circuit? Suddenly, there's a light bulb that goes off, and they immediately realize, oh, no, this is not something apart from everything else I do. I can see, in fact, how this dovetails with everything I do. And so very quickly, identifying those goals and then pursuing those goals makes so much sense to them. So it's such an engaging process for us, and we feel that once we have identified those goals and are asking the right questions to determine the strategy, everything flows from there.
What's the common mistake that people make?
Oh, well, that's also a really good question. I would say there are many. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking about marketing far too late in the process. So basically, from the moment we start talking to somebody about publishing their book, we're thinking about how they're going to sell this book, how they're going to market it, and you're the kind of people who subscribe to your show, Jeffrey, are in a great position to handle the sales and marketing piece of a book because they're already out there on the speaking circuit. They already have often extensive email lists, I imagine. You know, they are already, a book can fairly easily be added onto all of the other kind of brand building work that they're doing. But one of the biggest mistakes people make is to just think that they can start building their mailing lists and so on at the end of the publishing process. It's really something you need to think through from the very outset. How are you going to find those readers, and what are they looking for?
I'll just add to that, Jeffrey. I feel that maybe mistake number 2 is trying to be all things to all people. Mm-hmm. And I would say the more precise you can be about not only the subject of your book, but also your audience, exactly who you're speaking to. The richer and more vibrant your book will be, the more defined your concept, you will have much more success speaking and communicating directly to the people you really want to reach if you get specific, rather than trying to think, oh, but I want this to be marketable to every demographic. You'll create a concept in a book that is too diffuse. So don't be afraid of doing that market analysis and really targeting it, while keeping them in mind while you're writing your book and while you're marketing it.
So in other words, I've got to have in my mind's eye the person who's reading the book, mm-hmm. the person I want to read the book, mm-hmm. right? I got to be that specific.
Yes, ideally.
And I like the idea about, I mean, how to market it, thinking about marketing it before. So if, you know, kind of part of my brain's going, okay, if I've got to market it before I write it, do I define the market and then define the title and then write it? I mean, is that a way to do it?
I would say those things happen simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you're writing a work of nonfiction, you do usually have, especially if you're an expert and a thought leader and you're out speaking to people about your subject all the time, you normally would have a fairly clear idea of who that ideal reader is, and ideally you would be writing your manuscript with that person in mind. So yes, I would say that thinking about your core audience informs the writing, the positioning, the title, the pricing, and your marketing plans. It's really the heart of, you know, one of the first things we ask people is, who is your audience? It's absolutely critical to informing everything that goes into a book.
Mm-hmm. How do you test who your audience is? I mean, well, we're getting into sort of marketing questions, but I know, well, if you're a busy professional speaker, or you're a busy workshop leader, and you're continuously being asked to do the same thing, and you can tell where they are because that's where the business is coming from, right? So
that's right.
I'm sort of trying to answer my own question here. So that's a way to identify your audience, is the people who book you,
Precisely.
who buy your services.
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, you know, I'm a book lover. You can't see it, but you know, there's piles of books behind me, and a bookcase full there. That's the overflow behind me. There's you know, 6 bookcases in the living room, and there's one big one here on the side. And I tend to be I used to be a real consumer of a book, in the sense that I'd buy a book and read it in one sitting. Now I read more ebooks, which none of them are here. But I have 52 ebooks because I was checking this morning, or iBooks because I use an iPad to read them on. I use them on my little iPad, and so what's better? Is it a printed book, an ebook, or an iBook? What do you think? I mean, I'm, as an ecologist, kind of thinking about all the trees that get cut down. I'm thinking maybe it's just iBooks and ebooks. I don't know.
Jeffrey, we love to think about content first and format second. Not because the format isn't important, it's absolutely critical, but rather because the content and your understanding of your audience is going to determine what the format should be. So as Trina mentioned earlier, if you know your audience, and if you know that they're voracious ebook readers, or they're very technologically savvy people, or they're busy business people who are likely to download the ebook right before they get on the plane, then you may want to publish exclusively in ebook form. If you know that your book, maybe your book is more thoughtful, meditative, maybe it has illustrations, maybe it's something that really is going to, that a reader kind of needs to hold in their hands because of the way that the content is going to be displayed, then I think that will determine your strategy. So knowing how technology is going, and knowing that what we think of as an ebook today is going to look completely different tomorrow, we think what's critical is just to think about how your audience will want to read this book, and then going from there. the truth is, too, we almost always recommend creating an ebook simply because it's relatively inexpensive to produce. And so if you're going to do a print edition anyways, assuming that there are no barriers to doing so, the question is really why not? Yeah, go ahead, Trina.
And we do get questions often from people who plan to write and publish just an ebook. I think, you know, as ebooks really came to the fore over the last several years, a lot of people think that publishing a digital-only book may make the best sense for them, but in truth, the ebook market has plateaued over the last couple of years, and ebooks now constitute about 20 to 30% of book sales in North America. So we would rarely recommend that somebody just create an ebook, and particularly for the kinds of speakers who are part of your audience, Jeffrey, who are going to speaking engagements and want something physical that they can sell at the back of the room. The print book can be pretty important. So we, you know, we advocate trying to reach as many readers as possible, and often that can mean providing the material in the format that they prefer. So some people prefer print and some people prefer ebook. Why not make sure you can reach people regardless of their preference?
As always, it is about the customer, right? The
That's
purchaser.
right.
Yeah. How important is cover design and for the process?
It's absolutely critical. You know that statement that you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, people do it all the time. We all do it, whether you're aware of it or not, and many of us are aware of it. And it's just a matter of considering what does it mean to display a cover in today's book-selling world. So if your book is going to be sold mostly in physical areas, like a bricks and mortar bookstore, or areas where you're going to be selling directly in person, like at conferences and things like that, then you need a cover that works really well visually in its sort of in its present form. But if you are thinking that your book is also going to sell online, then you have to consider how is it going to look sort of about this big as a thumbnail, and you need to make sure that if someone is just browsing on Amazon, the cover is very attractive in that very small format, because they may never click to see a larger display, but it might still catch their eye if your designer has designed it carefully. We think it's very important.
How important is Amazon in this game? It seems to me that Amazon has, well, this is just my opinion, way too much influence, and you can game Amazon to get results.
It's true. There, you know, there are entire books written about how to game the Amazon algorithms to make your book more visible within Amazon. You know, we really believe that if that's the focus of your sales and marketing strategy, you're probably not thinking broadly enough. Amazon does have a huge market share. About 50% of books are bought online now, and Amazon captures a lot of that. But particularly for your audience who are reaching their readers directly, they really need to think about other ways of connecting with their audience, you know, selling at their events, selling direct through their websites, considering that in Canada, for instance, Indigo and Kobo have a huge market share, and by some measures bigger than Amazon. So I would say we wouldn't advocate putting all of your eggs in the Amazon basket, but it is a really important retailer to consider, obviously.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Now, Penny, you've been very quiet there. Have you collected any questions? And if so, what are they?
I had to put myself on mute because I have so many questions for myself, especially because I have been in the process of writing a book for a long time. So thank you for answering the question, ebook or print. So now I have much of my content done. What kind of process can I look at from the time the content is written to publishing time?
We think about, we work backwards. So think about when you would like to launch. Try to be very realistic about that. Build in lots of time. Don't rush. Often people feel very rushed because once you've gotten to the point of producing your manuscript, you think you just want to get it out into the world, and you feel so excited to do that. But build in lots of time for marketing as well as for production. So identify a reasonable target for your publication date, and then what we do is work backwards to identify all of the milestones. So from the point of the manuscript, you should have an editor. We highly recommend it. Often people skip that step, and that's fine if for some reason it's not available to you. It might be cost prohibitive or for other reasons, but if you can afford it, we strongly suggest working with a talented editor and someone who has experience with books specifically, not just any kind of written material. There's something really special about that long form content, and a good experienced book editor can work wonders with you. So go through the editorial process, and while you're doing that, consider the design possibilities. Connect with a designer, either a professional designer or, if that's not possible, someone you trust who does fantastic work. And at the same time, be working on the editorial process so that you can prepare it to go to design. From there, once the book has been designed, you'd like to have an eagle eye to proof it. And I can't stress that enough as well. An experienced professional proofreader, or again, someone who has that expert eye who can really help to create that final polish. And once that is done, then you can send your book to press or to the ebook conversion specialist, depending on how you're going. And at that point, you want to make sure that you've built in lots of time for your marketing, so that you can get the book to all of the venues that it needs to go to before its official publication. Trina, do you want to add anything? It's hard to describe it in a nutshell.
It is a lengthy. It certainly is, and it is a relatively lengthy process. A traditional publisher would typically take about a year to put a manuscript through that production process. So from the time you're finished writing the manuscript to the time books would appear in the store, with traditional publishing is about a year. When we work with self-publishers, we often compress that timeline to just a few months. But generally, you know, the more, I really wouldn't underestimate how long it can take to go through those steps if you want to produce a very professional book, and not to rush it, to give yourself time to make sure that you've done it just right, because most likely you've spent at least a year, maybe several years writing this manuscript. I always feel a little bit awful when somebody just races through those production steps, and you want to make sure that you're happy with the final package, that it really represents you and the brand you're building. So give yourself the time to do that.
Well, thank you, because I thought once it was written, it was like time, get her done. It's like, just get it done. But no, it's a process that we need to really think through. Really.
And really, Penny, I mean, it is possible for you to finish a manuscript and then publish it effectively overnight. You know, put it out on as a Kindle, as an ebook only, for instance, and just get it out there. But our bias, having come from the traditional publishing world, where quality is so critical. We have a personal bias toward professional publishing, and really believe that if you're going to put something out into the world as permanent as a book is, compared to websites and social media and so on, which are so ephemeral, then you really do want it to represent the professionalism that you have in the rest of your work and activities.
Oh, thank you very much. That is great advice, and that has helped me a lot to know that, okay, it is a process, and for it to be done right and professionally, take the time. And thank you very much. Jeffrey, in lieu of time there, I guess it's almost time to wrap up, so I'll have to hold my questions for when the ladies return on another show.
Well, I still have a couple of questions quickly, and because I've got questions here on my thing. So I think some of them we've actually covered. But there's one here that says, well, what does it cost to self-publish? I mean, I know because of the types of books and being involved, it depends on it, but what's the normal range that people can look at as an investment? Now, I'm not talking about the return on their investment, which can be way, way beyond their investment in actually doing it. What's the typical cost, just before we close?
Well, it depends on the decisions you make along the way. So, are you going to hire professional editors? Are you going to hire a substantive editor, a proofreader, a copy editor, professional designers, and so on? Or are you going to outsource some of those things to your creative friends? So when we work with people, we really like to present options. So if you want to save costs on the design, we can match you with a junior cover designer, for instance, who might be about half the price of somebody who's very experienced. So there's a wide range. I would say it can be anywhere from pretty much nothing if you decide to just put an ebook out through Kindle with no editing and getting your friend to do the design, to maybe $15,000-$20,000 for fully professional publishing support. And then, of course, if you decide to hire a ghostwriter or something like that, that completely changes the picture. So it really depends on what the person's plan is. But that's kind of the rough range, I would say.
So it could be zero with potentially zero results,
potentially,
and to $15,000, loading it up with every possible combination of everything. So it could be, and I suspect that the truth is somewhere in the middle. Am I kind of ballparking it there?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
For
Yes.
most of our clients, they will choose carefully where they want to spend their money. For some people, for instance, as Trina was suggesting, we're not joking about friends. You might have someone close to you who is a terrific designer, in which case maybe that is taken care of because they might give you their time. Then maybe you would take the budget that you have and spend it on hiring a terrific editor. And so it's important to get creative about these things, because we know that it's a very expensive process, or it can be, and you want to be strategic, thoughtful, and creative in where you put your resources. So you're right, Jeffrey, it does tend to be somewhere in the middle, because people will make key decisions, and we help to guide people in making those decisions along the way, to advise them on what makes sense for them. From our perspective, there is no cookie cutter approach.
Okay, I think this topic is deeper than 30 minutes, so
It's a big topic.
I think it's a big topic. So I think with permission, I'd like to invite you back again, and maybe we'll narrow it down just to one phase of what it takes to do a book, and we'll have an offline conversation about that. But I think a lot of people would have gotten things answered and have ahas. And, you know, if you want more information, if you're watching and when you're watching, go to page2strategies.com and read and take a look and have a conversation, because I think you'll get some wonderful answers and some great things. So thank you very much, Jessie. Thank you very much, Trina.
Thank
and
you.
Penny, thank you. We started late because of technical difficulties, problems on my end, and I want to thank everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week, every Friday at 12 noon, ProSpeak. Yes, ProSpeak, about helping you as a professional. Bye for now. Yes, here we go. Bye for now. See you next week.